Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. This will be our last lunch and learn for this year. We'll take off for Christmas next month, but we at the end we will kind of tease something for our next lunch and learn for everybody, and we'll probably go as far as people want to today on that. Um, but what I've got today is we want to finish up 2025 very strong and then make that lead into a good 2026 for us. And as we know, in the life insurance world, there are very few emergencies. There's not too many things out there that make us run around like our hair is on fire and we've got to get something done today. The rates don't change. We may have people have birthdays, but insurance companies allow us to backdate applications and save age. And so, what happens on Tuesday, if it happens on Wednesday or Thursday, in most situations, it's okay. Now, I grant that there are some exceptions to that. If you've got somebody who's got a lapse notice pending, you need to get the check in that day. But for the most part, there's just not a lot of emergencies in the life insurance world. One of the exceptions, though, and it's not really a function of the life insurance world as much as the government and the IRS, but 12/31 is a big day. Because if things don't get done on 12/31, they don't get done for this year. The taxes end on 12/31. So you can't all of a sudden try to claim a tax deduction for something that occurred on January 1st. So that's what we want to talk a little bit about is what can we do at this deadline that we've got approaching? One of the things, and not only is it for tax purposes, but it kind of goes to that with these life insurance companies, they all do calendar year reporting. Okay, so their year end closes December 31.
Mm-hmm.
They file annual reports not only with the states but also with their shareholders. So they're under pressure also a little bit to get things done in a timely fashion at the end of the year. I don't know how many of you have had any interactions with the regional reps for these companies, but they're also under a deadline because guess what? Their bonus is a calendar year bonus. So they want to get pieces of business in and placed by December 31st. Okay, so what does that mean to us? It really doesn't make any difference to us whether an insurance company reports sales of plus 1% or minus 1% of their previous year's total, does it? Not really. What it may make a difference for us, though, is at the end of the year, we might see an insurance carrier who's a little bit behind in their projections be willing to offer somebody a little bit better risk than they would have had it been in March. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to get a preferred out of a decline. That's a little too much of a stretch. But you might get somebody pushed from standard to preferred. You might get somebody pushed from a table 4 to a table 2. And those are real numbers to your clients. If you get somebody an underwriting class or 2 better than what we had thought they were going to get, that means something to them. And now is the time you might see some of those exceptions. I'm not saying it's going to happen every year with every company. It doesn't. But there are some companies that they get to December the 1st, and if they're behind in their sales, they might need something pushed through. I mentioned earlier the regional people. The regional people also have a lot of clout in the home office to get things done. So I've got a case right now that's a significant premium, and the regional person is doing everything in their power to be sure that this closes before the end of the year. Why? 'Cause they've already hit bonus. The more bonus they get, the higher their bonus is, or the higher they meet their goals, the larger their bonus is. So just think of that as we're doing this. Think of clients that you may have had that you try to get underwritten, that maybe they either got declined or they got a table rating they didn't like and didn't accept the policy. And we can try to rush it through between now and the end of the year to see if we can't get a little bit better offer on them. That wouldn't necessarily go back to the same company. That's probably not going to work. It's not going to help you as much. But you might want to consider another company to get that person pushed through. So that's one of the things from a life insurance sales standpoint that might make a difference to us as we look here at the end of the year and what to do between now and December 31st. But I don't want anybody to go prospecting at the hospital. That's probably not going to help you. Now, let's talk about a couple of other things that are going to have to happen by the year end. Also, you have to take RMDs. Everybody familiar with that term? Required minimum distributions. Those have to be taken by the end of the year. There's significant penalties if people don't take their RMDs. Now, what does that mean to us as advisors? Well, if you have someone and there are a lot of people in this boat, they don't need their RMD. They take it only because they are forced to take it. So what can you do with that? Well, we talked previously in one of our lunch and learn sessions about generational planning. If you're having to take an RMD, guess what? You're over 73 years old. You probably have grandkids. There's a good possibility or probability that you'll have grandchildren. So if somebody's got to take that RMD, take it, use it to fund a generational policy, a second to die policy, typically on grandma and grandpa, or you could insure son and daughter-in-law or daughter and son-in-law for the benefit of the grandchildren. We looked at that. You can set this money aside. It really turns into a great college education fund or maybe buying a first house, and you don't quite have the restrictions that you do on a 529 plan. So think about those RMDs or maybe grandma and grandpa have to take it, but they don't have any long-term care insurance. Might be a great way to fund long-term care insurance. There's some actual tax benefits to funding that long-term care benefit out of the RMD. We can talk about that another time. So that's another thing that has to be done by 12/31. You also have people out there who now, by this time of the year, they pretty much know whether they've had a good year, a bad year, or a mediocre year, and where they are going to be in income tax. Okay? So if someone who has had a bad year, the economy hasn't been great this year. It's been okay. It's been great. You might have some people who have losses. Let's say you have someone that owns a business and they have a loss on the books. Well, they got money in an IRA. Why don't they go ahead and convert that IRA to a Roth, take the income? Since they have an offsetting loss in their business, they don't pay any income tax on that conversion. Just a thought. Again, you got to do this by 12/31. All right. If you do it, because if you do the conversion on January 15th, when is that taxable income going to be reported from the distributing IRA company? It's going to be a 2026 1099. So again, that's where you're looking at a 12/31 deadline. But you say, Ralph, I'm not securities licensed. I can't do anything with a Roth conversion. Sure you can. There are lots of fixed indexed annuities out there There's lots of MIGAs, there's lots of other different products that you can sell that you don't have to be worried about whether you're securities licensed or not. And we can help you with that. And there are some benefits. I always go back, you listen to these gurus on the radio, and they always say annuities are bad. Annuities are bad. They're very expensive. They're bad. Well, there are certain people that want the benefits that annuities can provide, and they're willing to pay that cost for it. Okay? Just remember, cost and benefit, is it worth it to the client? It's not worth it to 100% of the client, but I guarantee it's worth more than 0% of the clients.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be selling annuities. So think about that with your Roth conversions. So those may be for the people that have not had a very good year in 2025. Now, let's talk about something that we could do for people that had a good 2025 or are experiencing a very profitable 2025. Because there's still chances that you can you see my screen now, Christy? I just shared it.
Yes.
There are ways that you can make contributions into qualified plans and get a current year tax deduction. So for those people that have significant income, maybe they want to defer some of it until later years. Okay. Now you still got the 59.5 and the RMD at 73. So there are some restrictions on this, but if you look at this, and we just pulled up somebody 43 years old, and they could put in $20,500 in a 401k with a $7,500 profit sharing and get a $28,000 deductible contribution to that 401k. But instead, if they put it in they add a cash balance pension plan to it, if you're not familiar with that cash balance pension plan, it's kind of a hybrid between a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution plan. Okay. You're trying to keep that cash balance in the account equal to the maximum amount that's going to be allowed when they start taking contributions out in the future. It has to be actuarially tested and some things. So there's a little bit of expense to this, but look what it does to this person's deduction. It adds another $160,000 of deductions for this 43-year-old. In a 37% tax bracket, that is a tax savings of $70,000 almost. 37% sounds high, but it's not really when you start talking about federal and state income taxes and add them together. Now, you say, well, I know some people that make a lot of money, but they have employees. Don't they have to do something for their employees if they do something for themselves? Yes, the cash balance plan may not be for everybody, but if you have the highly compensated who are sole proprietors, or maybe everybody in their business are family members, this might be a good option. Okay. Manufacturers reps would be a good one. Somebody that does IT work by themselves. This might be a good plan for those. So you're looking for high income individuals that don't have any employees, because 100% goes to the owner in this particular situation since he was self-employed. Okay. So think about that. Now there's some plan costs to start up the plan. We have to get a TPA involved, et cetera. But this is something certainly to talk to your clients about as we get to right at the end of the year and somebody's thinking, you know what, I'm about to have to write a $50,000 check to the IRS for my estimated taxes. So let's see if we can't figure out some sort of deduction. Now, this one, we also had a spouse, and you put the spouse in there, and now that deduction is up to $278,000 for the two of them. That's pretty significant money. Not saying you have to do all of it. You can do some of it if you want to, or you do all of it. You say, again, That's not going to help me. I sell life insurance. Well, you know what? You can add a life insurance component to this and have it funded in the life insurance contract, and the contribution even goes up for him. It was 160,000 on the previous one, and now it's 193,000 with the life insurance, and it buys on this 43-year-old a $1.12 million life insurance policy. All of a sudden, we might generate some commissions on this. So those are some things that you need to be thinking about for the year end 2025. Okay. I'm going to start now. I'm going to stop at 2025 and start talking about 2026 unless we have any questions. Anybody have any questions?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, so let's talk about planning for 2026. A lot of times in the insurance world, we feel like we're always on the proverbial treadmill. We keep running because guess what? Those bill collectors know when it's the first of the month. And if we didn't sell anything the previous month, we feel pressure to make the bills for the next month, don't we? And many times we don't ever sit down and say, hey, if I'm hitting these goals, I'm going to have enough money every month to make that. I understand some months I may be behind, but on the average, if I meet my goals and I know my goals are enough to pay my expenses, it'll relieve a lot of that pressure. Now, I speak to this is kind of the pot calling the kettle black, as they say, because I know I am very guilty of not setting my goals. I just keep working, expecting everything to be okay. It does create a lot of stress because you never really know whether you're successful or not. The other thing is, as producers and advisors, we seldom take the time to enjoy our successes. When you sell that big case and you get the big commission check, you're on to the next sale, right? Because we're in a business where we get paid based on what we sell, or most of us are. There might be some people here that have a little base salary, but most everybody is commission oriented, and they got to keep selling everything. If you don't set your goals and write them down, that is a very stressful job because all you're thinking about is making more money, making the next sale, and you don't slow down and enjoy life. So part of what we're doing here is we've got a checklist here to help you at the end of the year for next year so you can kind of put together some things for 2025 and get ready for 2026 and enjoy a much more comfortable 2026. So, and you can start, these dates are just a little bit arbitrary. You could add or change them a little bit, but I'm going to start. One of the things we probably should be working on right now in this early December period between now and the first week of December is schedule policy review meetings with your top clients. There may have been some changes that you're not aware of, and just sitting down and building that rapport with them and talking to them about business rather than about social events or seeing them at church or running into them at the grocery store. Sit down, take some time with them. Take your top 5 or 10 clients. Go have lunch with them. Talk to them about things. On a more mass appeal, you can start doing cards and emails or maybe sending gifts out to some of your clients. This is probably the first one we said was probably, your top 5 or 10 clients. Your holiday outreach needs to be your top 100 or 200 clients. And then the third thing is, and we mentioned this earlier, talk to people that either delayed a decision, didn't do something, or maybe they got rated and didn't take a policy. Just go back and check with them and say, just want to check in with you near the end of the year. Just wanted to see if you wanted to review that and possibly readdress it. Those are the things you can do the next week or 10 days. As we move on later into December, start some tax planning conversations with your clients as we started talking about retirement, how to generate efficient income or tax deferred income, and work with a CPA. A CPA, once it turns calendar year January, guess what? They're going to be as busy as heck and they're not going to talk to you. But right now in December, most people have some time the last couple of weeks of December. Not a whole lot of people are working 100% between Christmas and New Year's. You ever call people and say, oh, they're out to the first of the year? Well, now's a good time to try to catch them. Another one that we talked about is pushing those high value cases, the ones that are going to move the needle for the regional reps and the insurance carriers to meet their sales goals. Okay, that's another big thing to talk about, what you've got out there. And then one other thing it's got here is to host a client appreciation event. I know it's the holiday season, but what we see on most holiday events, everybody has Friday and Saturdays booked up. Weekends are busy. You know, there's football, SEC championship game, all kinds of things on the weekend. But what about that Tuesday night or that Thursday night? People are just sitting home waiting on Friday, waiting on Saturday. It's a good time to host an event and get people out because they are in the spirit to get out and socialize. They just don't have anywhere to go on Tuesday night. And then in the late part of the month, we got to finalize these sales. We got to get those APSs in, get those exams done because all these companies have a deadline to cut off. They're not going to guarantee that if you send something on the 24th of December, it's going to get placed by the end of the year. So you need to be aware of the company deadlines on those. If you want, every company's a little bit different. If you have something, you have a big case you want to try to place, call and we'll try to figure out what's the best company to send it to at this point in time. Then review how you performed over what you wanted to do in 2025 versus how you actually did. What were your numbers? Did you sell as much life insurance as you wanted to? Did you sell any annuities? What we can do to set your goals for next year? And then you need everybody, it's changed a little bit now. The states used to renew all the licenses at the end of the year. I know Alabama's on birthday month, so mine comes up in February every year, but you've got to renew your licenses, possibly, and at least check and know when they're going to come up, as well as completing your continuing ed. It's a good time while you're sitting in the office to try to figure out if you finished your continuing ed. If not, and it's quiet, go do your continuing ed. And then lastly on this list is think about how you're going to keep in touch with your clients and what you're going to do to follow up. Because something just came across my desk today that it takes the average person about 7 touches before they make a buying decision. So just because you call them today and you've got the greatest product since sliced bread, they may not be interested. But you keep talking about it, and all of a sudden, one day, you're just kind of in the right place at the right time, and guess what happens? They say, Christy, you're talking about that supplemental executive retirement plan. Tell me more about that. You just never know when it's going to happen. Your client's time frame is not your time frame. Okay, just remember that. So you have to kind of adjust your time frame to theirs. Now, that is the last little bit I had on 2026. But what I wanted to do, because I came across something the last couple of weeks that just really floored me, to be frank. And I don't know if your counties have this or not, but let's see. I'm going to show you something, and we're going to talk about this probably our next Lunch and Learn. So you're getting a little preview of this, but let's say that this is the Jefferson County, Alabama. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. This is my county, and this is the tax assessor's page. And you go down here, and it was something called documents. And I said, I was just kind of exploring. It says top 10 taxpayers in 2025. I click on that. And well, does it go? Okay. So it brings up these cities. All these are little suburbs of Birmingham. And I live in Hoover. So we're going to pull up Hoover and take some. They're the top 10 taxpayers in Hoover, Alabama. Well, so you got Alabama Power, probably not a prospect. Blue Cross Blue Shield's not. 2135 Centennial owner, I don't know who they are, but they got 15 million, almost $16 million of assessed value and pay almost $500,000 in taxes. ARC has $12 million. I don't know. It sounds like a pretty good list. So let's write 2135 Centennial owner. We'll go here now to the Secretary of State. And it was 2135 Centennial, I believe it was. We'll pull them up and an entity name. Search them. 21, they're out of Miami, Florida. Probably not a good prospect. But anyway, that was one. I actually looked at another, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I saw one on the list. It was Tice Properties. And so I pulled Tice Properties up here, and it said Louis C. Tice is the registered agent. Member name Louis Tice. Member name Jimmy Tice, Michael Tice, Janice T. I assume that's Janice Tice Key, are members. So you got multiple people here, family members, it looks like. So I said, Louis C. Tice, let's look him up, see where he is. It's amazing the things you can find on the internet. Oh, Louis C. Tice, looks like he died in 2019. He's still the registered agent for this company. I got something to call Tice Property about, don't I? It looks like these are probably 3 children. They now own some land that daddy owned. They probably need a buy-sell agreement. That's what you found out of that. I got another thing I'm going to show you. Let me go back to it. So this is the Board of Equalization. You may have heard about appealing property taxes. You might do it yourself. So I appealed my property taxes this year, and I don't know how I got into this. I just stumbled into it. And I look at board hearing results. So I'm going to click on board hearing results. And here is everybody in Jefferson County that appealed the property taxes and what their final value was. Looks like Lakeview Green had a $23 million valuation. That's pretty significant. Birmingham Towers, don't know who they are, $7 million. You got the names and you got property owners. Paul Pankey, look, he's got 2 properties here. He's got one for 4.5 and one for 15. Now, I don't know exactly what your county's tax assessor or Board of Equalization are going to hold, but I think there's a good chance you'll be able to find out some of these people. If we go back to this and let's see, look, RCG Hoover, if you could see this one, it's Ryan J. Gibbs, care of Brian Cash. I'd be willing to bet RCG has to do with Ryan Gibbs. Let's see if we can find Ryan Gibbs and what he does. And I haven't checked this one out. No. I don't think that's going to be him. So probably not one that we could have found, but you could go to here to the business records and go, what was it? RCG. Do a search. And there are different RCG companies. Don't know which one is his. We'd have to go back and look at. It's RCG Hoover, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There's one in Gulf Shores and one in Atlanta. Let's look at the one in Atlanta. You got the address, 3060 Peachtree Road, Northwest Suite 400. If you're around Peachtree Road, you might go in there and drop a card in and just say hello. I wanted to meet with you. So anyway, that's something we can talk about in our next lunch and learn. I think there's a lot that take a full hour to go and look at some of those things and do a deep dive in there. Chat GPT is an interesting thing. Let's see, I just got one. Let me see if I can find this. I just got an email. Let me see if I can pull it up. Because I found it very interesting and very timely. So here's my email. So I recorded a quick video explaining how our AI finds prospects based on wealth triggers like money in motion events, job changes, and property sales. Want me to send over the demo? I haven't responded, but I mean, it's just amazing the things that you can find now. There are no secrets in this world, it seems like. Now, I've kept you about the 30 minutes that we always do. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I hope you found it beneficial to have attended today. And like I said, I'll open the floor. If you've got questions, please raise your hand and speak up.
Ralph, I have one question. If you're toward the end of the year, you've got prospects, we're pushing through prospects that maybe have some issues. How do we speed up the process of getting APSs and that sort of thing in so the underwriters have everything they need to make a decision?
The best way to do that is get the client to call the doctor's office and ask them to speed that up. Because if we get the release and we know when you're taking the application or talking to them, find out the doctor's name and address, what they were seeing them for. We'll make the determination whether to order the APS and post haste, and then get the client to call a couple of days later to see if they've received the request and they can fill it. That is typically the best way to speed up a doctor's office.
Okay.
They don't respond. I shouldn't say they don't respond to us. They're not always necessarily the most responsive to us, but they are responsive to their clients.
Okay, good.
All right. Anything else, guys? All right. As always, if you need something, please feel free to reach out to David or to me, and we can help lead you through this. And again, like I said, I just wanted to tease what we're going to do on our next lunch and learn, but I think there's a lot of information that you can sit there and find out on the internet, and especially the real estate. We've talked in the past about how good real estate prospects are for life insurance. Okay. Well, thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays and Christmas to everybody. And just let us know if you need anything. Thanks a lot.